Well, an upper level low is going to create several chances of severe weather for most of the plains here over the next few days. We'll break it all down. So this upper level low is sitting in the desert southwest, is going to be ejecting northeastward, and this is going to be the impetus for storms really the next few days as it kind of lingers through the central and northern plains especially. Today it's going to be Colorado, Nebraska, western Kansas that we'll be watching for a severe risk. And in fact, we have a very small area of an enhanced risk of severe weather, so level 3 out of 5. We'll show you why it's that really small area here in just a second, but also the potential for some very large hail. In fact, a 30% probability of large hail and a hatched 10% chance of significantly large hail, which that's the part of the plains that really you have the best chance of doing that. And south winds pushing up dew points. These green contours are the high dew points, muggy dew points, rushing into the system, a developing surface low ahead of the upper level low too, coming out of Colorado. So everything really coming together in eastern Colorado. And this is where we get the really cool severe weather pictures too, because you've got those high base storms, better visibility than you do in many other areas that you get severe weather. Already some cape developing too early in the day Wednesday. So this is the area that we'll be watching. So that upper level low comes moving northeast here, strong vorticity or spin out ahead of it. So that means shear upper level lift. And by the late afternoon, lots of energy here for thunderstorms to develop. Pretty narrow areas, but there is going to be plenty of that cape or convective available potential energy. Eastern Colorado, western Kansas, and then into southern Nebraska. And as those upper level winds really come spinning around that upper level low, we're going to see that shear increase to that environment necessary to produce some tornadoes, but really in a pretty small area. So that's why that enhanced risk is pretty small. Watch as we pause the significant tornado parameter late this afternoon. This is why that enhanced area is pretty small, because we're watching the highest parameters for those most severe potential storms in a pretty narrow area. So here come those thunderstorms developing late afternoon with that daytime heating, eastern Colorado, and then into Kansas, Nebraska. Initially is some discrete supercells. That's when we could produce those tornadoes. And then we're going to see probably at least 1 or 2 bow echoes develop. That's when we'll see the potential for some really high wind gusts, some of those over 60 mile per hour wind gusts. These are wind gust swaths through the evening and overnight, primarily western Nebraska, eastern Colorado, and then into western Kansas, where we could see those high winds along with the large hail. Then that whole threat and focus shifts a little bit east tomorrow and expands for a large area of South Dakota, Nebraska, into Kansas, northern Oklahoma. High risk of some large hail again, especially Kansas and Oklahoma, wind, and even a tornado threat again as we start to see that upper level low really slowly move across the plains, the central plains tomorrow. And that's going to spin up thunderstorms out ahead of it. Significant tornado parameters tomorrow, a little bit further south, more into northern Texas, Oklahoma, southern Kansas. So that's where we'll be watching for the potential for tornadoes. But north of that, we'll still be looking at a hail and wind threat as these storms kind of develop into pinwheels of storms tomorrow evening, maybe even pushing into southwestern Minnesota, where we do have a marginal risk. But the higher risk does look to be Kansas, Nebraska, into southern or northern Oklahoma as well. And then Friday, that whole risk kind of expands eastward. 2 pockets we'll watch in Texas, but then into Iowa and then eastern Nebraska. So Friday, still a little bit of a question, depends how much heat we can get. But the significant tornado parameters lifting north, again, as that jet stream, those upper level winds all kind of spin upward out ahead of that upper level low. So that's what we're watching over the coming few days. We'll be active in pockets. Thunderstorms widespread across the central U.S.